Just that simple. Now today, I've been tasked to come to speak about January 6th or the fallout from that in upcoming General Assembly. But be reminded, there have been many January 6th. Okay? This is not the first time. We can remember Archie Elliott, Anton Black, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, Corin Gaines, and many more. I can go on and on and on. Maryland and America in general have not viewed these violent tragedies perpetrated on black and marginalized bodies. They are like tyranny and insurrections day to day. You add those all with our allies and those that fall below the middle class, it's like violence perpetrated, and it's like the Hunger Games in real time. So on January 6th, it was just a display of what's been happening in America for a long time, where a portion of white America excising resentment politics. That's what they were doing in D.C. They were excising some resentment. The Republican Party has mastered this art of harnessing this type of resentment. Representative Andy Harris stirred it up. Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Maryland Delegate Dan Cox, Delegate Matt Morgan, Delegate Kevin Hornberger. Good majority of them assisted Donald Trump on the violent venture of this white resentment insurrection, which culminated into one of the most violent days in recent American history. And what was this all for?
Nothing.
Donald Trump said, we're going to take our country back.
Our country.
Our country back? What did he mean? Back to the days before the 1950s where black and marginalized people were, segregated. These are not anti-racist policies that promote racial tolerance and progress. Quite the contrary, they promoted stagnation. However, the Democratic Party, they ain't on their game. They are not on their game. So they're not innocent either. They're always chasing that white resentment politics as well. So they create voter apathy. But more importantly, this is how you stagnate progress in general. So we got two parties, one with a bit more promise than the other, but both are racist, one overt, one covert. Add this up, you have a federal, state, and local level mix of anti-racist and racist representation, but always it seems like the racist policies are going through, as you've heard today. Let's just tell the truth about it. Since Breonna Taylor and George Floyd's tragedy, we are now seeing an outpouring of solidarity. Multicultural coalitions protesting in the streets against oppressive, brutal, and systemic racism. In fact, in some areas, it's been all white allies. But we really aren't seeing much change in our state and local houses. In Maryland, they did not call for a special session, so people suffered. There were a few that stood up, but the vast majority just sat around being quiet. I just wonder how any of them can actually sleep at night. Where is the love? Where was the action? Where was the advocacy? Sorry.
You're good.
Whew. Where was the voice from the MGA? Isn't the silence of the good people worse than the brutality by the bad people? So let's look at our leadership, because that's where we need to go. Thomas Mike Miller. He's had a long tenure, voted against HBCU funding. I mean, he did a great job. Mayor Byrd did a great job creating an architect of the illegal sample ballot. I can tell you what he did up in Harford County so you can understand why I don't really particularly care about that man. He came up and bought that ballot up in my area and had it in Edgewood, which was a predominantly black area, had them saying that certain people on the ballot were black and certain people on the color were white.
Wow.
Went in another area, had saying this was the Democratic Party's supported candidate and the others weren't. So that'll tell you what the ballot will do, because if you gotta understand, if you're literally in a what you call a media black zone, people don't know the difference. So those illegal ballots are powerful, whether you realize it or not. He also backed Leopold, which we talked about. He was a union buster. And the redistricting, talk about Andy Harris, that's Miller's handiwork. Do you know not even 10 years ago that was a Democratic area? Everybody talks about Harford County being so red. Do you know not even 30 years ago that was a Democratic area? That's the handiwork of Miller. Miller and the Democrats. That's complicity right there. And we don't need to talk about what he said about Baltimore, like you said. It's GD ghetto. So, like the Confederate statues and the racist things, we need to actually address getting rid of that as well. So let's move on to Matt Morgan and Delegate Kevin Hornberger. They went down to Georgia to canvass for David Perdue. They don't even take care of business in Maryland, but they going down there to canvass for this inside trading, racist person who...
QAnon supporter.
That's right, QAnon supporter, throwing up white supremacist myth gang signs and all kinds of stuff. You know, what kind of leadership do we have? Then we got Delegate Cox. He was talking about all kinds of conspiracy theories. You know, he got up his people to go have that MAGA Mafia party.
6 buses.
6 buses. I mean, come on. And then during that party, he's tweeting about Pence as a traitor.
Yeah. On his private Twitter. On his private Twitter.
I mean, I know it's on his private Twitter, but
it's a shame. He's a Maryland delegate. That's a shame.
And I'm thinking, and then certain people that are in the General Assembly with them were tweeting back, like, you're better than this. And I'm like, no, he really isn't. Because the guy just put together these busloads of people. I mean, and he's lying.